Welcome to All Kinds. I'm Chaya. And today we're going to talk about pedo island hopping. True crime, one less pervy old predator off the streets as Peter Nygård is finally arrested. Weekly updates, leave Lizzo alone. The Toobin Cleanup begins and Tom Cruise plays the savage. Now, no one wants to end up on Hoarders, but not everyone is a Marie Kondo devotee. How much do we really need? And what's good to keep on hand just in case? Cherished possessions or pure junk? Make a decision. Welcome back, everybody. Now, I know there's been a lot going on. I'm sure you all saw this thing with Lizzo. She's got this big backlash because she went online. I think she did a TikTok video promoting a 10-day smoothie challenge. So people said, this is terrible. She's supposed to be all about body positivity. And now she's promoting the diet culture. And she had a really good response. She's like, and I'm going to quote her here, every big girl should do whatever the fuck they want with their bodies. And she's absolutely right. Leave this person alone. She wants to get healthy. That's her business, right? And she said, and she shouldn't even have to talk about it. She was saying, it's not about her weight. She feels so much better. She was eating all kinds of crap and she didn't feel great. And now she's just feeling amazing and she wants to be healthy. And she's seeing all these great benefits and she's loving it. I don't understand why she has to really answer to anybody for what she's doing in terms of her health. Yes, she's very happy about, being a little thicker. She's really positive about that. She's never shied away from it, but there are health things and she might want to feel a little better. Now, I didn't even know she was big when I first heard her music because her music was coming out before she made it. That really big first song she had that, everybody got to see her in the videos. Most people I know don't first hear a song and see the video. I was in my car and it came on, Blog 50. I tend to listen to that. And it came on. I was like, oh, good beat. And then I found out, when it blew up, like about a year or so later, right? Yeah, we all started seeing her at award shows. And then she's a bigger girl. Okay. She's never shied from it. She's loved it. And it's the same backlash a lot of big girls get anytime they decide to go on any kind of diet for whatever reason. She's not doing anything extreme. She's having a few smoothies. And FYI, lots of non-big people try so many different things. Everybody knows about intermittent fasting. There's the juicing. There was the whole just protein and fat only diets that everybody's going through, the Atkins. There's so many different diets you can't even keep up. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to be healthy or for whatever reason, it's her business. So I like that she clapped back like that. And I don't think she has to, be responsible for everybody and their weight. They make them be like the standard bearers. We've heard about this with Adele, with Rebel Wilson. It's their business. She's happy. And I don't think that she's planning to become some emaciated Hollywood person anyway. So I don't think you have nothing to worry about. And if you like what she's doing, follow along. Who knows? Maybe she'll try something else. But if it's giving her benefits, why not? So everyone needs to stop. It shouldn't have even been in the news. And good for her. She wants to feel better. She's feeling better. She's healthier. More power to her. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this also. We talk about everyone getting a rehab, coming back in. No one's ever really canceled, especially the wealthy and the successful. So you guys remember the whole Toobin scandal that Jeffrey Toobin, he was caught jerking off on a Zoom meeting. And this guy was a big legal analyst for CNN as well as the New Yorker. Now, the New Yorker did do an investigation. I don't even know what that would entail. And they did fire him. Officially, he's not fired at CNN. He's still just suspended. So I guess they're going with, yeah, he's a douche, but he's our douche. Anyway, so the first real rehab attempt of his image has already started. And that came via, it's no surprise, the New York Times. They wrote a whole little article, and they ended up with one guy quoting actual scripture, right? Quoting the Bible about, I guess jerking off and saying he's not sure why he's fired. Again, this whole thing, I think it went so big because anybody would be fired for doing this at their job, period. And the fact that they're now trying to, dip a toe in the PR waters and see if they can sense like, hey, it wasn't a big deal. He shouldn't have been fired. There's no protections, especially in the U.S. for any jobs. They can fire you for pretty much any reason, unless it's like sexual or racial discrimination, right? So they'd be fired for much less than that, full stop, right? And this guy's a major legal journalist. So he's not just any type of journalist. He's like the legal expert. And they did this whole piece about him to try to, make him seem more sympathetic. They talked about growing up. Apparently his mom was a hardcore big journalist. So now no surprise how he landed his gigs, I guess. Well, I don't know. I can't say that for sure, but she's in the industry. And he does have a brother with Down syndrome. So they mentioned that. But then they mentioned that basically he was living in a home. I mean, back then they would just put someone with Down syndrome in a home. They couldn't care for it. And we don't know the condition. And we're not going to talk to that. But I was even wondering why they threw that in there, since they also made it clear that, they don't really communicate with this guy or have any contacts. I'm like, this is just to make him more sympathetic, I guess. And everyone's pointing out to, like, if you're going to start rehabbing him, it opens him up to more scrutiny, right? Because this guy, he also had an affair back in the day. It was like a 10-year affair. And he tried to get this lady to have an abortion. She had to sue him for child support, which he now acknowledges the son. Like, they put this all in the article, like, to try to build this whole profile. And basically, he's always been into, and I don't think we need to even talk about this, but since, they're trying to rehab a guy who was publicly jerking off, they talk about how he liked swingers clubs and things like that, and he was into hardcore. I mean, this is his private life, and he's with consenting adults. We shouldn't hear about it, but if he's going to try to dip a toe in, he shouldn't have jerked off, I guess, at work. I don't know many people who can do that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool, let's not fire the guy. I mean, once, I was in my early 20s, and I was working with this girl. We were in training. We just started this company, and we were just joking around. And we created a fake account called Hot Sexy Buns at like Hotmail or whatever it was at the time, AOL. And we sent her fake little messages, right? Like, oh, you look so beautiful today. I saw you at the printer. And some of them were erotic, but it was obviously like so ridiculously exaggerated. Anyway, so after my training, they send me over to this team, right? And we each got separated. We were all on these all different sales teams. And all of a sudden, I'm called to HR. Like, she went and she said to HR, like, we had told her it was me. We had had a lunch like the day before or something. And she was like, I've been getting these crazy emails. And we're like, she's like, is it you? And it was like 5 of us eating lunch together. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's me. I hope you've laughed and enjoyed. She's like, ha, ha, ha. She was totally normal. And then like the next day, I'm put on this like hardcore team, and I'm like the junior who just started from training. And I was so embarrassed because my manager's like, we got to go down to HR. He's like, she wants you fired. She said she was traumatized, and she brought the tears. Like, she came in and brought the tears, and like they had to read these emails out loud in front of us. It was so embarrassing, the whole thing. I was like 21. Anyway, they made me do the sexual harassment course, and that was like the settlement. But she was upset because she wanted me fired. So I guess, I almost got fired for like clearly a fake, ridiculous email, right? I can't imagine if I had just jerked off. I don't think that would have been cool if I was just flicking the bean. There's absolutely no way. So get ready. I'm sure they're going to keep at it with these rehab attempts, because the fact that CNN still hasn't suspended him, I mean, there's big paycheck at the end of this. So they're going to bring him back, which is just crazy, because I am sure there are many, many, many qualified legal analysts, especially in the States. I mean, they were talking about how there's even too many lawyers, and people have all these crazy student loans. And like, it's not like you used to just go be a lawyer and instantly poof, you're rich. Like, now there's just so many lawyers. You can be an unemployed lawyer. So I'm sure they can have no trouble finding someone who will fill his shoes and who wouldn't be about to do a Louis C.K. at work. You know what I mean? So either way, just get ready to see them try to make him look like, oh, it's a mistake. He's come through it. I don't think there's a rehab he can go to. Like, what they do with celebrities whenever they catch them doing anything? They're like, oh, he's going to get help for whatever the problem is. And then he's rehabbed and he comes back out, and you watch this whole process. There's not really anything he can do there. I guess maybe he could say he's a sexual addict or something. I mean, watch for that. That's one route they can take. And then he went to rehab and got help for that. And now he's ready to be back, and we should all forgive him and move on and buy his books and watch his shows and all that nonsense. So we'll see what happens. And then, of course, I'm sure you guys all heard about Tom Cruise. He was heard taped yelling at 2 workers who weren't appropriately social distancing. It was leaked. I don't know if that was intentional, and it was really over the top. And for sure, listen, the guy has spent some of his own money. I don't know if he's getting reimbursed or what the deal is for him. He is filming right now Mission Impossible. And to be fair to him, they have shut down the set in the past, because the rule is if anyone gets the Rona, they have to shut down. Like, I guess, do like a quarantine period before they can reopen, and it costs a fortune. So he was freaking out saying that, this is saving thousands of lives. He's on the phone all day, all night with insurance, studio and all that because, the industry does employ so many people. I mean, I think people forget, California, you could say what you want, but it's such a mega population. I think it's the largest populated state. It's got the whole population of Canada in one state. And a lot of it is dependent on the movie industry. So it's not just the actors, of course, it's the crew. And that's why, for me, I was like, this is a little suspicious. Like, it's great that they leak it so they know that they're taking it seriously. And we should support an industry that supports so many other indirect and direct jobs. And he has spent over $500,000 of his own money. Reports even say like $600 for a cruise ship. I know Tom Cruise renting a cruise ship for the crew so they can't quarantine and be in separate conditions. Every day they make a movie, it costs a fortune, right? But his whole rant, the fact that it's leaked, it sounded very over the top. And he did end up doing a second rant since the leak, and 5 crew members have quit. So I just thought it was like, okay, it's great that you can just rant and rave, but let's say the crew had seen you doing something. They can't do that. So also I was like, so that's how he's talking to the crew. And the fact that he's yelling so hard, if this isn't intentional, because a lot of people think this was a setup, it's more to drive up attention for the film, if in a way, if that makes sense, to get it out there. No publicity is bad publicity, right? I mean, this is going to be a big movie. I think it's Mission Impossible 7. So he was also pictured, wearing a mask with valves, which everyone knows is completely useless. I mean, you're just blowing it out through these holes, right? So I'm not saying, I don't know if he's taking it seriously or not. I don't know where Scientology stands on that. But I can tell you that the way he was talking to them, if this is legit, I mean, he probably talks to them like that if his sandwich isn't the right one. It didn't come across great, and it didn't seem like they can't talk to other people that way. He can do that. He's not going to be fired. He's going to be okay. I don't see crew, especially with work being so limited right now, jeopardizing themselves. So I think there's more to the story, but a lot of people have credited him for this. Like, great. But I'm like, why couldn't he just take them aside? Why is he yelling at them like this? I can't imagine if anyone yelled at me like this in the workplace, period, for anything, right? So there's a little bit of that. And if it is genuine, if that's how he's talking to crew, period, and I don't think it's just for this social distancing that he's claiming, I mean, these poor people, especially the fact that 5 crew have quit after that when they're in such desperate need of jobs. So we'll see. I mean, he doesn't exactly have the best, I'm not going to say sane, but we all know about him jumping up and down on the couch. I think he's not even allowed to see Kate and Surrey. I don't even know where it stands. I don't really follow him, but this is a mega movie that's coming out and the movie industry has been struggling. So I think it's a little bit PR and it's good to see that they're safe and continuing to do this production. However, I wouldn't be surprised if more people continually quit and we never hear about it. I mean, you never hear when crew quits a movie anyway. So there was that. And then the big one is, I mean, you may have heard about this. Peter Nygård. Holy crap, this guy was at it. They are calling him the Canadian Epstein, and it's not far off. I'm going to get into it so you guys can know all about it. And I'm sure you can expect a CBC Gem special any minute now. This guy, holy crap, he was arrested. Now, he had his own island estate. This guy has been credibly accused of rape in the 80s, all kinds of shenanigans and harassment. And here he is, finally arrested. They finally are going to try to get him this time. And I think it's going to work, especially in the environment we have. And there's just too many comparisons to Epstein. This guy's worth around $800 million. The last that I know, I mean, that was checked a few years back. It could be more. He had his own island estate in Bahamas, just like Jeffrey. He actually even dated Anna Nicole Smith back in the day. So he used to be in the tabloids. And get this, guess who visited, among many others, and I'll tell you, Prince Andrew. So now it's coming that Prince Andrew was island hopping pedo style, right? From Epstein's to this guy's. They know for a fact he visited in 2000. There may be other times we don't know yet. We don't have log files like the ones with the Epstein, but I'm sure more pictures and everything are going to surface. I mean, this one has Oprah, De Niro, Michael Jackson, and George Bush have visited. That is established. And there's more too. I mean, this guy was openly at it, attacking women and fighting all these lawsuits. Like in the 80s, 1980 actually, he was charged with raping an 18-year-old girl in Winnipeg. The girl ended up refusing to testify, so he got away with that. And then he was accused of paying her off with corporate funds, which I'm sure happened. I mean, back then, you know how they would really just smear the women, and you couldn't really prove a rape. I don't even know how good the rape kits were back then. I don't know if she felt comfortable going to get one. The burden is always usually on the victim. So I could see how he got away with that one. And then in the 90s, he settled lawsuits by 3 former employees for sexual harassment. That was in Manitoba. There were even more lawsuits where he struck back at women and newspapers for saying anything. There was this famous violinist, I think in an Italian newspaper. She talked about the parties that he was having, I guess, with these underage girls and everything. And he was absolutely suing her. And she ran out of money. And it got so bad, she was forced to make a public apology, like in a newspaper. So that's how it was back then. He could, if you had money and you were a predator. And we all know that Jeffrey Epstein got that sweetheart deal the first time around. So it's in that environment. But he just kept at it. Even Jessica Alba, she was filming a movie down there in the early 2000s, and she had to leave a party there. And she gave an interview saying it was due to the debauchery with the women. And he, of course, sued the paper. So in 2019, the Bahamas began investigating 6 claims of rape from girls under 16. And there are pictures of him with young women. You could find that. So I don't know what the evidence is. And I know the climate now, he's not going to get away with it. He got away with it for so long. And in February, 10 women filed a class action suit, 8 of whom were underage at the time of the rape. And also, this past August, 2 of his own sons filed against him, saying that a sex worker who was also Peter's girlfriend was sent to rape them. So there you have it, his own family. But during all this time, when he was publicly suing people, attacking all these victims in the 90s, 80s, and 2000s, this man was given an award in 2012 and had a park named after him. And in May of this year, they finally renamed the park. But he was given the Queen's, I think, Jubilee Medal. I mean, it's crazy. Let me see the medal. Yeah, he was given the Queen's Medal honor in 2012. So that's after he had all these accusations. Now, you're wondering, when is the Netflix or whatever coming out? And I can tell you it's Discovery Plus who has it. They are releasing a documentary. It's going to be called Unseemly, the investigation of Peter Nygård, and it should be out February 2021. You're going to see a ton of similarities. Here's another billionaire with an island, with a network of underage girls. Supposedly, he kept a database since the 80s on like corporate servers of all these women. And most of them, a lot of them were under 16. So I don't even know how young we're going to go. I guess like maybe 13, 14, 50. I expect as more details come out, you're going to see that same pattern. Now, I don't know if the 2 were friends. I think, do they know about it? I mean, you always hear that these types of things happen in like these rings, right? But it seems like he was like non-discriminatory in the sense that he didn't care if you were underage or overage. Yes, he liked the underage ones too, but he'd still harass you if you were in your 20s. That's the vibe I'm getting here. I mean, so I don't know with the Anna Nicole Smith, if that was real dating or what happened, but she wasn't 16. So I think he was an equal opportunity predator, if that makes sense, the underage and the regular age. But he seemed to really skew young. And we're going to see how that worked out. Who's his Ghislaine? I mean, we've gotten to know this cast of characters from Epstein, and now we have the Canadian version. Lovely. So that's the really big news that's been going on, among many other things. But the things that I saw, I said, oh no, here we go. I don't know how many more versions of Epstein's we're going to get. I mean, if we found the Canadian one, is there going to be a European one? I'm sure there is. These stories are now going to start coming to light, because they're so sensational and they've been going on in front of everyone's eyes for so long. And I guess we could just follow Prince Andrew and his island hopping and find the next one, because it appears he was definitely at both places. I don't even think he can deny it. It's breaking right now. So we'll see how this develops. I'm looking forward to seeing the documentary. We'll see if they have more information. And we're going to see a court case this time. So far, he's alive. And, with Epstein, he's no longer around. So we'll see if he takes the stand, what the witnesses are, and what the evidence is. It should make for a very, very interesting and hopefully lots of justice being doled out finally for this guy. With that, it's time for a commercial break. This week's episode is brought to you by Why Not Me? I hear it from friends, family, and even myself. When there's an opportunity or position we want, we dissect every interaction, every meeting to assess how we stack up, and it can prevent us from getting what we want. If it doesn't involve open heart surgery or putting someone on the moon, why not me? You're capable and you're competent. You are no fool. You may not know everything, but you can learn. It's not that complicated. Whatever it is, trust me and trust yourself. The next president? Why not me? Hot partner? Why not? Promotion? Sure, you got this. So the next time you think it's not going to happen or it's not for you, put those doubts aside and ask, why not me? And why shouldn't it be you? Who better? And we're back. Yeah, I know I had an episode title with that, but I keep seeing it crop up, and I just wanted to hammer that home. So absolutely, why not you? Who better? Now, I wanted to talk about hoarding. I mean, we've all seen the shows, but there's so many other ways you can be a hoarder and not realize. And everyone can't be a collector, because that's always what the start of some hoarding say. It's like, oh, well, no, I'm not a hoarder, I'm a collector. And sure, once in a blue moon, you'll see a collector. And how I make the difference is if I come in and I see it's neat and it's like in cases or it's displayed properly, I can walk freely through the areas, then okay, maybe you're a collector, right? But if I'm like trying to scram through pathways, maybe not. I read somewhere recently that 1 in 9 are paying for storage. And if you're moving, obviously that's a perfect time to get rid of things, right? But you have to think about that, especially in these times. A lot of people have been happy that they were semi-hoarding because suddenly they're finding things that are very comfortable. Old clothing, old books, old stories, old games. I read a story where someone had like Marie Kondoed and cleared out all these board games, and then poof, pandemic, they had to rebuy them all. And especially if someone had a chess set, holy, that's valuable today. Like we talked about, you still can't get one. They are sold out. Well, when I was younger, my mother was always trying to warn us against hoarding. She always told us some story how somebody died because they had stacks of newspapers and they just collapsed on them. And then no one found them for days and they were like dead under the weight of these newspapers. I don't know if that's true or not, but you got to be careful with it. I had a best friend growing up, and when I would go to her apartment, you know, you don't think of it as a kid. We just knew we couldn't access one room because it was full of stuff, like literally just full of stuff. And all the hallways were lined, and you had tiny pathways you can get to. And they tried to keep her room. Her and her sister shared one room, and the other room, like I said, you couldn't get access to. That was a bedroom, so that's why they were sharing. And it ended up when she had a son, she ended up in the bedroom with her son, the main bedroom. So you still had that one closed room, which was a pity because they were essentially 3 kids and they only had like one bedroom when they should have had at least 2. And it was there. But she didn't think about it. She had tons of crates of books. She had all these like little glass things hanging, like wind chimes, sort of like dream catchers type of things everywhere. And I didn't think of it as a kid. It just was interesting things to look at. But I do remember when I visited as a teenager and I'd come over and we were leaving the house to go out. And she's like, don't forget to take out the garbage. And I looked around and I was like, what? She gave us 3 bags like of recycling. And I'm like, what about the rest of this? I mean, you could barely get through the house. It had those tiny paths. So you don't see it unless you want to. And I'm sure everything meant something to her. My mother's an avid reader and she has so many books. But if you ask her, like any topic, she'll know where that book is, what chapter it is, and she does read her books. When she was moving out, she had sold the house and she was moving to an apartment. I told her, listen, just take things that you have read in the last 2 years or have a special memory, like they came from, you know, her father or something like that, you know, rest in peace. And he had recently passed. So something like that. But if you haven't, in 2 or 3 years, then I don't want you taking it, because we were helping her move. I mean, she had so much stuff and she thought we weren't looking. And I remember we're loading up the truck and suddenly we just see her little head bombing up, rumming. And I'm like, what is that? I'd have to catch her like a kid. She thought she would need everything. And I kept telling her it's a smaller space. But in the end, she worked it out and she's very happy with the stuff she has. And she did get rid of a lot of stuff. I'll give her credit. But I always think like it's 1 in, 1 out. That's the rule in our home. If you're getting something, then something needs to come out. It doesn't have to be like for like if I buy a t-shirt, I don't need to donate another t-shirt. I could get rid of a pair of socks. So as long as it's 1 for 1, that's what keeps me, because I'm always nervous I'll end up, you know, with too much stuff. And you do want things just in case, right? And I didn't know that makeup expires and quicker than you think. That concerned me because I have all this great makeup. I got really good makeup about 4 years ago. I was going to my husband's brother's wedding at the time. You know, we were just a couple, but I was like, I need to get good makeup. I want to have, you know, really, I'm going to go get them to do my face and I'm going to buy the product so I can do it myself because it was in France and I was going to have to do my own makeup. So I kept that stuff and now I'm like, what? It only, it doesn't last that long. They say 2 to 3 years max, and even less if it's cream-based or oily. So if it's something like a blush or a powder, they said you can technically use it, but it'll be hard. And you'll notice that, like, it's hard to get it. Like, it becomes more and more pressed firmly down. but it's not so much you're at a risk of an infection. They're more concerned about mascara and anything going near the eye. They think you can get bacterial infections from that. And with the cream stuff, after, I guess, a couple years, it separates and they say, A, it won't go on pretty good, but also it can start developing bacteria. So 2 to 3 years max is basically it. And I always think, like, listen, I guess we got to go through it. And if I haven't worn something in 2 years, it has to go. I don't always follow the rules. I do try. But there are things that we've all noticed that just in case definitely happened this year. So I guess the whole 2-year rule, I have to reevaluate. Because especially now, I have this huge work wardrobe that I had built up over the years because I had to wear suits. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to again. I can't get rid of that stuff. And most women know we have a couple sizes in the wardrobe. And it's absolutely important. You know, sometimes I'm a little bit bigger. Sometimes I'm a little bit smaller. And I like to have that flexibility, especially with neutrals. When I was building my work wardrobe, I started with the black, the gray, the white. That's how you build the foundation. And then you go from there. I remember, like, I think I've mentioned it before, when I was at Xerox, they're like, yeah, you know someone's successful when they start bringing out the colors. So you always want the foundation. So I'll keep that, but I really want to thin the herd because now I'm just loving the loungewear that I get to wear all the time. I've always enjoyed it, but now all the time, I don't know how I'm going to go back. I had to wear heels the other day. It was brutal. Don't get me wrong. I love a dress up, but to go back full time, that's going to be brutal. And certain people will be able to continue in their loungewear, but certain jobs you're not going to be able to. And even now, there are essential workers who don't get to lounge 24/7. So we're pretty lucky in that sense. But I guess with the hoarding, anyone who got rid of a chest set, like I said. So certain things just in case, but take a look around. You don't need a lot of stuff. And definitely once you start paying for storage, which apparently 1 in 9 are, that's when I think you might have a problem, might be worth revisiting. And, you know, you could sell the stuff if you don't want to donate it. People do really well. I know a lot of people who first go to like Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji or Craigslist or wherever before they buy something because they know there's good stuff coming out. I mean, my sister recently got a bunch of stuff from someone brand new in the packaging. So you get a great deal. And that's how I got my laptop. The secondary markets now are pretty good. They're not as sketchy as they used to be. So get rid of it. And you could look at it this way. It's more space to get new things. Not everything has to be a memory. I think that's the key. Keep a few things. I once saw a movie. They were like, listen, if you have 60 seconds to grab what you could, what would you take? Now, I think that's a little extreme in the way of looking at, okay, what should I keep in my house? Only anything I can take in the first 60 seconds in case there's a fire. But, and, you know, you get the idea. Slim it down. Make a decision. You won't regret it. Just tell yourself, I'm going to get something new to replace it. And that'll hopefully soften the blow for you guys. Well, guys, that's all I wanted to discuss really this week. A lot going on. I know the holidays are coming up. I might be able to squeeze out one more episode. I'm hoping to have a guest possibly next week. I'll let you guys know. And I think that could be very interesting. But if you like what you hear, don't forget to check us out weekly on iTunes or on your preferred platform. Please give me a rating and subscribe to the show. Give us the stars you think we deserve. You can also check out our website at allkindspodcast.com. You can hit us up on Twitter at allkindsweekly or on Instagram at allkindspodcast. I look forward to hearing from you, and maybe I can discuss it on our next show. Thanks for listening.